Hello, it's Mr. Barnett here. In this video, we're going to be talking about something called slope-intercept form. This is something you all worked on in 8th grade, maybe even 7th grade, so hopefully you remember it a little bit. But you all definitely, if you had me, you remember y equals mx plus b. This is called slope-intercept form. Okay, and it's called that because you have a slope and a y-intercept. So m in this equation is your slope. MB is your y-intercept. Now, a few things we need to remember. Slope is just the steepness of a line. Okay, so you can have a positive slope and negative slope. Your y-intercept is where the line crosses on the y-axis. So you have a line. I'm going to draw a very crude line like this. Okay, here's your x-axis, your y-axis. Okay, anywhere that it crosses on there, that would be your y-intercept. Okay, so that is your y-intercept. And how steep that this line is your slope. Okay, so this isn't a very difficult thing. This is my favorite way to learn how to graph things. Let's go ahead and clear this out. So slope is something that a lot of people struggle with. It's not necessarily difficult. It's just a little more abstract than plugging in numbers, which is what a lot of people do. Like algebra, you're solving for x, you're doing stuff like that. Normal math, you're adding. This is more of an abstract thought because you are graphing things on an actual XY plane. And what I want to talk about today is being able to identify the slope of something. Okay, so slope, let's talk about slope. Slope is rise over run. Okay, and what does that mean? Well, that means on a graph, on an XY graph, rise over run means how many places you rise and how many places you run. So that's how many places you go up or down and how many places you go left or right. So if I have the point right here, let's say that's the point 0, 1, okay? Let's say that's a 1. I also have the point here, and we'll call this 2, okay? Well, if I have a point here also, that is the point 1, 2. So we have the point 0, 1, and we have the point 1, 2. Typical XY graph stuff, okay? What the slope would be, how fast, how steep that rose, and rise over run. So we went up 1 and right 1. So our rise over run is up 1, right 1. So slope of that would just be 1. 1 divided by 1 is 1. Now, the things that are going to be odd on this is when you have negative numbers, okay? So let's say you have a slope of negative 2, okay? So let me erase some of this. Let's say I have a slope of negative 2, okay? We'll keep our 1 point. We have 0, 1. So if I have a slope of negative 2, that means I'm going to go down 2, because negative means go down, and then over 1. So if this is the point 1, we'll make this the point negative 1. So we went 1 point, 2 points, and then 1 point over here. Okay? And that would be the point what? 1, negative 1. And now let's see if our theory holds true. Because negative 2 divided by 1 is equal to what? Negative 2. But what also equals negative 2? Negative 2 also equals 2 divided by negative 1. So if you follow that logic, you can rise 2 1, 2, and go left 1, and you're at the same point, okay? So that's a negative slope of -2, and the first example was a positive slope. I know it's a lot to take in. It's really not that difficult. I'm gonna go ahead and erase this. You all feel free to pause if you want to copy this down for notes or whatever. So the thing to remember is to identify the slope, you can literally just count. You can count the numbers. So if you count how many spaces you go up and down, it's a fairly simple way to figure out your slope. We're almost there. Here we go. Okay, so another thing to remember about your y-intercept. Your y-intercept is a point when x equals 0. So your y-intercept is the coordinate when x equals 0. Okay? So any point like 0, 1, 0, 4, all those are going to be found on what? The y-axis. That's x, that's y. So 0, 1 would be about right there. 0, 4 would be about right there. All of these are going to be y-intercepts if a line goes through it. Okay, so the y-intercept of that line would be what? 4. And the answer for the y-intercept is 0, 4. So here you would put a 4 for this b. Now, same thing I was talking about earlier. If this would be 0, -4, or this would be m minus 4, mx minus 4, your point would be down, because up is positive, down is negative. Okay? Let's look at an actual example of something that I'm going to ask you to do in this week's assignment. So let's look here. Let's see. Let's just look at number 4 here. All right, so the directions say find the slope of each line. So we have y equals -3/2 x minus 1. And we want to find the slope. First, always remember your slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. I want you to be able to say that in your sleep. And we know that m is our slope and b is our y-intercept. So we want to figure out what our slope is. It's going to be whatever's in front of the x. So what do we have in front of the x right here? A -3/2 equals m. So our slope is just -3/2. Pretty simple on those. Let's see what else. All right, then here they're going to ask you what the slope is by looking at something. This is what we were talking about a second ago. So what you need to do is figure out how you get from this point to that point. Well, it's fairly simple. You go up 1 unit, then right 1, 2, 3, 4. Up 1, right 4. So your slope is 1/4, rise over run. Hope that makes sense. Those are really the only two things you're going to have to do. We're going to go over a few other things. For example, let's look at number 9. Let's talk about this. X equals 2, all right? So we need things to say y equals mx plus b. Well, that doesn't say that. So first let's graph x equals 2. How do you do that? How do you graph x equals 2? Well, it's just an up and down line at 2. Does that make sense? So let's say that's the point 2. That's all it is. So what would your slope be? It's the same for all of them, right? So what would your slope be? This is something we're going to talk about this week. I want y'all to think about this, and we're going to talk about it next time I make a video. So just look at this, ponder it a little bit. What do you think the slope would be on this? Is it 0? Is it infinity? Is it undefined? We'll talk about it when I come back. Thank you.